Good afternoon, friends. How are you doing? As you probably saw in yesterday's short, we had a mighty storm yesterday. We ended up with 4 inches over 24 hours, which definitely caused a lot of havoc. There's a lot of trees down, thankfully not on our property yet, although it's very windy today. You can't tell right here because I'm sheltered by the house, but it's the wind that causes the biggest problem after the soils are saturated. So hopefully everybody who's been in this storm will come out on the other end just fine. So I'm back outside because it's partly cloudy and I just needed to be outside and not trapped in the house. So we're gonna put together a planting today that I don't know how long it'll stay in this container, but I do this every spring. It's kind of like my first spring container. So years ago, before I figured out who Greenstock was, I bought one of these multi-tiered planters. It's pretty dirty. I rinsed it off, but it's kind of dirty. Anyway, and quickly discovered, because they have, drip holes in them, I quickly discovered that it was pretty crappy. So I don't plant vegetables or anything like that in these anymore. That's what I use the green stalks for. But it's great for flowers and things that, especially spring flowers, who aren't super picky about temperatures or water. So what we're going to do today is put together this container. It is 5 tiers. So I've got a selection of 5 types of flowers. Well, not types, 5 colors basically. So we've got here, I've got 4 Arkwright Ruby violas that I started from seed. They're still a little small, but they'll be just fine. Actually, this is the smallest one. The others look pretty good. We're gonna start with those. I'll probably just put those on the bottom tier. And then I'm gonna build this as I go so that it makes it easier to plant. So then the next tier is gonna be this Speed Star Plus White. It's like some kind of daisy. I've never grown these before, but I chose it because it stays small, short. I don't want anything super tall in these pockets because then it will impede the view of the stuff above it. So we're gonna put a row of these in. I got these beautiful pansies, violas. This is Sorbet Honeybee. I just love those colors. And yes, most of these colors are more fall-like in that they're in the hot palette, more than the spring pink and stuff palette. But that's because Arkwright Ruby is a deep ruby red and with gold and stuff, and so I wanted everything to go together. Then I have a layer of matrix white pansies, and then the top layer are going to be these guys, and I don't know how many of them I'm going to fit in there, but I just think they're beautiful. The variety here is Giant Clear Scarlet. Such a gorgeous color. So all of these, it'll be a contiguous color story, which is really what I'm going for. All right, so all I really need to do is fill these with soil and start potting them up. Should go pretty quickly. Then we have another potting up project to do. Okay, so I'm actually very happy with that. I did make a huge mess and got lots of soil on the flowers below. We fixed it with the water. When I bought these pansies in the large pots, in the 4-inch pots, I was worried that it would just be too much for this top tier. And if it was the summertime, it definitely would be too much for this top tier. But I just love how lush and thick it looks. And yes, it's all a single plant. There's no creativity in this top tier, but I love it. Now the rest of these will fill out and get bigger in their pockets over time. We are coming up to next week. We're going to have, there's going to be another small storm on Sunday. And then next week, we're going to be in the 60s, which is amazing. It'll go back down again. It's going to be like the fall spring for us. But I'm going to harden off a whole bunch of vegetables to put out in the front garden because next week will be a great time for them to put on a little bit of growth. And then if we get another frost, which we might, I can always cover that bed with frost cloth. So that's I'm excited about those warm temperatures coming up. So I have a few little plants left, and I'll find other places in the landscape to put them. But I'm proud of myself, y'all. After I planted, I cleaned all these pots. Now I still have all that stuff by the side of the greenhouse to do, and I actually think I'm going to do it today. It's chilly today. I'm hot right now because I've been moving around. But with the sun like this right now, they'll dry really fast, and then I can stack them all up and put them back in the greenhouse. So speaking of the greenhouse, let's go and I'll show you what the next potting up project is. So you might be wondering how I justified buying plants when I have all of these seedlings in the greenhouse. But I came out here last night and I looked through all of my bedding plants seedlings. A lot of them are getting really big and they look beautiful. But a lot of them, like these calendula here, look how gorgeous that is, and the salvias and stuff, and even the freesia and things, they get much bigger than what would work in that container. Those containers need either things that stay short and don't impede on the pockets above them, or do a nice cascade that you can weave in between the pockets. And none of these plants in here fit that bill. So, which is fine because all of these have a location already in mind, either here in the cottage garden with one of my customers who's getting, with one of the many customers who's already bought the bouquet in a box set, or even out at the farm. So these guys already have their names are on things already. And the same over here. Also, not everything was big enough. Like Sweet William probably would have worked, but number one, it's not hardened off. And two, it's just not big enough. That's really not gonna survive out there right now. And then the mullein and stuff, that's coming along, which is great, but again, way too big for that container. Okay, speaking of containers, that's another thing that I bought today at the garden center. So I needed a container for a specific plant that I'll show you in a minute that would go with my living room decor, because this is exactly, it's going to go on the little table in between two of our sitting chairs where we spend most of our time. This one does have a hole on the bottom, which is exactly what I wanted, because I do want to pot the whole thing up in this container. But I thought it was really pretty. The colors go with, will work with our current colors in the living room. And this one is from Mexico. It's beautiful. So the plant that I'm going to put in here is this Syngonium. It's called Milk Confetti, and it's just got the most beautiful leaves. It is doing really well, but where I had it in the house on the fireplace mantle, which was temporary, it just wasn't getting enough light. So it doesn't want direct light. It wants indirect light, but bright indirect light. So where it's going to go is going to be perfect for that. And it needs a bigger pot anyway. It's becoming quite large. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix regular potting soil plus some cactus mix. It doesn't call for that, but it wants very well draining soil. This, like a lot of alocasias, will rot very easily if the soil stays too moist for too long. So I want to give it a good, well-draining mix. The only downside to using this container is that there was no saucer that went with it, so I have to put a clear plastic saucer underneath it to protect the furniture, which is a bummer because it kind of takes away from it a little bit. But I still think this plant's gonna be so much happier in that container. It'll have good drainage and much better sun. Okay, so like I said a couple of weeks ago, every week is going to be seed starting week for the foreseeable future. I have a crop plan for both here at the house and at the farm, and that determines when, as well as my last frost date, when I start seeds for which crops. So today we're going to be starting, and I may not get through all of these today. I may have to come back in here and do them tomorrow. But today we are going to be starting a whole bunch of seeds, some of them even for summer, which seems crazy to be doing in February, but that is the way it works. So what am I starting? The first thing is just some more Rudbeckia. This is black-eyed Susan. This variety is called Maya. It is a dwarf plant. So Rudbeckia can get quite big. This one's pretty small. It's 4 inches wide. Oh, sorry. The plant is a dwarf plant with 4-inch wide flowers that are fully double and golden yellow. I'm going to try to find a photo for you here. Large abundant blooms with sturdy stems on a compact plant. So this is a cool season hardy annual, but it is perennial here in my zone. And so I love having Rudbeckia around because they overwinter just fine. And sometimes they'll continue to produce a little bit through the winter. So I need more. It's kind of a short-lived perennial for me. I want to put a few more out at the farm, and I'd like to have some in the front garden as well. So we'll be starting this Rudbeckia. This week marks the first week that we are starting sunflowers. And I know that seems crazy because it's February. Why would you start sunflowers in February? But this is the way we do it in the cut flower world, depending on when your last average frost date is. But I will sow sunflowers every week from now until the end of the season. So probably around August, the beginning of August, because they do take, a little while once you sow them to come up. But I pretty much always start the first variety I almost always start is the Pro-Cut White Light variety. It's a kind of a whitish flower petals with a greenish white face. And so they're nice and bright and those clean kind of almost late spring colors. And so that's why I like to do them. Next week, I'll probably sow another round of those, and then we'll just successively plant them out of the farm. Now, the next one I'm sowing this time is a new one from Sunflower Steve. He had a very limited variety that was available this year, so I got as many as I could. This is the Lemon Drop Mix. So this is derived from Van Gogh's Fantasy, which I've grown for 2 years in a row, and then this color was selected specifically because of the vibrant lemon color. So I'm very excited to grow these. His sunflowers are wonderful. Like this is kind of teddy bear like. I don't know if you've seen the teddy bear sunflower, but this is very similar. However, I have found that Sunflower Steve's sunflowers are very large heads. Now you can control the size of a sunflower head based on how closely you plant them. So if you plant them 4 or 5 inches apart, the heads will be small, and that might be perfect for you depending on what you're using them for. If you plant them a foot apart, the heads are gonna be quite large, and that might be impossible to use in bouquets if that's your, primary reason for growing them. So, but I generally put mine about 5 to 6 inches apart. And last year, these, the Van Gogh mix, I had some really huge sunflower heads. They were just amazing. So loving those. Can't wait to start sowing those and getting those out there. All right, then I have, these are gonna be direct sown. I have Hungarian blue poppy. I've already sown a whole bunch of poppy seeds in the cottage garden before we had a very light rain and then a dry day, and then we had the heavy torrential rain. So that very light rain was good for pressing them into the soil, and hopefully they didn't all wash away in that heavy rain, but we shall see. So these are actually going to go out at the farm. I'm going to sprinkle them where I currently have a whole bed of daffodils, and I also have wildflower mix on top of that. All of that has germinated, but I want to add some more with these. Then we are starting to get into the marigolds. Now, marigolds, I've always grown as, a garden companion. So like, here's a good example. This is just a French marigold. This one actually is Epic Gardening's new seed collection. So this one's called Red Cherry. I used to only know marigolds by what they did in the garden. They are really an amazing plant for pest control. Now, they're not foolproof, obviously, because they're not, you know, some chemical manufactured by a company, but marigolds are really good at repelling pests, a lot of pests, such as mosquitoes and aphids, whiteflies. This is even better, root knot nematode. So if you have ever suffered from this, which is a horrible thing, if you get root knot nematode in your garden, it's really challenging to get rid of, and they will eat the roots of your plants, specifically like tomatoes and peppers, and the plant up top just dies, right? So they just attack it. Now, there are beneficial nematodes that you can put into your soil that will battle with them, basically, and then you have to hope that the good guys win. But marigolds are really good because the chemicals that they secrete at repelling these guys. And so you can grow marigolds, and the root exudates out of the marigold will help treat that soil. Also, above ground, because I don't know if you've noticed marigolds, if you've ever grown them, they have a smell, and some people really hate that smell. So in the cut flower industry, we have a whole bunch of varieties that are beautiful, big, fluffy. So here's a couple that I'm growing this year. This one's called Kilimanjaro White, and then we have Orange Hawaii. So these are the kind of marigolds that you see in like Indian celebrations like Diwali and stuff. They are big, huge heads, like more than double, just hundreds and hundreds of petals in there. But they do have a scent. However, that scent goes away if you strip off the foliage. It's only in the foliage. It's not in the flower itself. So if you really can't stand that scent, just get rid of the foliage and then your bouquets won't smell. Getting back to the whole treating the soil and then, whiteflies, aphids and stuff. If you're treating the soil, you could treat the marigolds kind of like a cover crop too. And at the end of the season, because they'll basically become mush when you have a freeze. But you could chop them up and turn them into the soil, and that will also treat the soil for root knot nematode. Okay, so what varieties am I growing? I'm growing varieties for the front garden as well as out at the farm for harvesting. These are in high demand in the fall, and so I want to make sure I have plenty of them. So what do we got here? I've already shown you Kilimanjaro White and Orange Hawaii. I've also got Cocoa Deep Orange, which I'll try to put a picture here for you. Nocento Lime Green. This one's really different. It's really cool. And what else do we have? White Swan, which is similar to Kilimanjaro White. And then I have some other ones here. Oh, I already talked about Cocoa Deep Orange. Okay. And then I have some other ones here that are more for the garden. So let me show you those. The first one is a literal pot marigold called Lemon Drop. This one is adorable. It's great in containers, and they are really deer and rabbit resistant. It's not because they're poisonous, not like with daffodils, which are literally toxic, so animals don't eat them. These just apparently taste really terrible, marigolds in general. So I can easily put these outside of my deer fence in my daffodil bed and not have to worry about them. They'll do just fine. I will say there's one caveat to that. Here in California, towards the end of our dry season, say like September timeframe, if it's been exceptionally hot and there's not really any water left, the deer get very, very hungry, very, very thirsty, and they will eat some things that they normally wouldn't eat. So some of these might disappear, and that's okay. As an aside, I've seen a deer walking up my street with a mouse in its mouth. It caught and killed a mouse and ate it. When they are hungry enough, they will eat those kinds of things. So nothing is exactly deer resistant, but there are some plants that they really won't go after unless they have no other choice. Okay, so that's that one that I'm growing. And some of these will also be going into the bouquet in a box for customers as well. This one, Lemon and Tangerine Gems, super cute. It's a really bushy, short marigold that's great for like a rock garden. And the flowers are just, they're so sweet. They're little. So I have a couple of packets of those. I'm going to start quite a few of those. And then I have another French marigold. This one's called Red Metamorph. It's very bright and vibrant. and it really just continues to bloom. I do deadhead my marigolds, especially the ones in the garden, because if I don't, they don't bloom as prolifically. So if I go through and I keep cutting back all the dead blooms, then I keep getting tons more flowers. So might be something you want to do when you're doing your weeding, is cut back your dead marigold flowers. And then I have another one here. This is an African marigold, so it's a much bigger one, like those big fluffy ones I showed you. This one's called Cracker Jack, and it's a mix. The last things I'm going to be starting, it's hard to believe already, zinnias. So yeah, zinnias, very much a summer flower. Cannot tolerate cold, but these guys take a while to germinate this time of year. And I want to have plenty of them ready to go out. Now, this is just the first succession, because any zinnias I start now are not still going to be blooming at the end of July. So I usually do 3 successions of zinnias. And so I change what I start each time, different varieties. A lot of that has to do with the colors. So the first succession will be more of the like pastel kinds of colors, because it is, you know, spring. And then towards the end of the year, the colors will be more of the like wine and orange and like all of the autumn type colors of zinnias. The ones we're starting. I always have a few of the Oklahoma series. Those are the kind of small little zinnias, because they are so great for bouquets, because they kind of act more like a spray than individual flowers. So I have Oklahoma White that we'll be starting, and another white one, Benary's Giant. I am slowly moving away from the Benary's series, only because Florette has been so amazing with the varieties that she's producing, and I would like to grow mostly those. But white, just plain white zinnias are always useful. always, always. So I will be starting some Benary's Giant White. And other ones. This is there's 2 new zinnias here, new to me, but also new to botanical interest. This one's called Senora, and you can see it's got kind of that like pinkish, bronzish, like pinkish orange color. Really, really pretty. So I'm going to start those. And then we have another one here called Mazurkia or Mazakaya. This one's really, really pretty. It's 3-inch flowers. And so you can see they're not like this. The other thing I like about zinnias is they have multiple harvest stages. So you can technically harvest at this stage, or you could wait till they get really blousy. So the one thing you really want to do before you harvest a zinnia to make sure that it's ready is to grab the stem and shake it like that. If the flower moves with the stem, it's nice and strong stem, it's ready for harvest. If it flops, it is not. And if you harvest it, it will droop in the vase, and it will never give you a nice turgid stem. So very easy way to check. Okay, so the final 3 that I am starting, and this is all the seed I have left, so I'm going to try to save seed this year in case she can't sell next year. But Dawn Creek Pastels, Victorian Wedding, and Golden Hour. I did have some precious metals. I might still have some in my seed catalog. I have to go look. But if I do, they probably are already in one of the next successions for growing. So, but I think that's all the Florette seeds I have left. Okay, so I'm going to get some trays set up. Go ahead and get these sown. You guys have seen me sow seeds a million times, so probably won't bother you with a time lapse on that. I'll just show you what we've got once I have the seed trays done. Okay. Everything but the zinnias got sown. I'm running out of time. I'm hungry and it's getting cold and dark. So, but I'll show you. I also had to do a whole lot of rearranging because I pulled out these guys that are going to start getting hardened off tomorrow. There's some lettuce in here, some broccolis and stuff, and then peas that are going to go in the wine barrels that are next to the front door, the side door with the strawberries. So those are going to go in there. The other peas I'm saving for customers for their vegetable garden in a box. So I had to reorganize. I wanted to make sure I was trying to get perennials all in one tray, and then vegetables all in a tray, and flowers of the farm all in a tray, kind of like keeping things more organized. Also, it let me today was also fertilizing day, so I was able to do that and check all the seedlings and see which just aren't working or aren't, germinating correctly, etc. So I started all the marigolds. A whole bunch of them went into this 128 tray, and I've labeled where they are. So these are all the big ones that will go out to the farm. And then in here, I've got seedlings that I started last week, in addition to some more marigolds. So they're under a heat dome, under a dome on a heat mat for heat and humidity. Then I've got 2 more 6-packs down there. Those are the ones in 6-packs are going to be for me to use in the garden, but also for customers when they get their bouquet in a box from me. And I also started all the sunflowers, also in 128 trays. So we've got the lemon drop, Sunflower Steve lemon drop up here to here. And then starting right here in this cell, all the way back is white light. Now those guys don't need to go on a heat mat. They're fine. They're just gonna sit on the floor. And once they break the surface, however, I will move them. And I actually will be covering them just like this, because I have learned the hard way. The mice like to dig up and eat those sunflower seeds because, yeah, they're yummy and they're nutritious. So as long as I keep it covered, and they don't need light right now, I'm going to put a pot on top for weight. They'll be fine on the floor right there. They'll stay covered until they germinate, and then we'll put them under the lights. And at that point, I'll probably have to cover them with a dome every night to make sure they don't get eaten. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm tired, and I'm going to go inside. But tomorrow we'll start some zinnias. Also tomorrow, and I really wanted to do this today, but it's so wet. It's still going to be wet tomorrow. But I need to start in the front garden cleaning up, getting the beds ready as much as I can. I need to do a little bit of research about a few things that are out there, seedlings that have started from previous things that drop seed, because I would like to let the chickens out and let them roam through the garden tomorrow. But if there's some dangerous seedlings in there, I need to make sure and pull those out before I let the chickens out. So yeah, I need to be doing that. I think it's still gonna be too wet to hoe because I have tons. There's one place where the Nigella was that dropped 1 million seeds, and there's probably 1 million seedlings under there, like literally. I'm not even being hyperbolic on that. And so the best way to get rid of those would be to hoe, but I think the soil is just so saturated right now, it's probably not a good idea. So we'll see. But I do need to start getting all the beds ready, and starting tomorrow night, I will start laying out lots and lots of rat traps, and we'll start catching all these guys before next week when I want to put some vegetables out in there. These vegetables that I'm hardening off, the broccoli and stuff, I'm going to put those in my raised wooden bed that are, have hardwood cloth underneath and that I can cover the top with for now until I get lots of rodents caught, because otherwise I'll plant them and they'll just get eaten overnight. So, all right, that's going to be it for me today. I'm really looking forward to going back out into the garden tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer. I was going to try to tackle all those trays and pots, washing them, but it's gotten much colder. It's in the mid-40s right now and breezy, and that doesn't feel fun to be washing things in that kind of weather. So thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope to see you tomorrow, and I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden. Bye.